Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm going to start here. As you're probably aware, over the weekend, and I believe it was on Friday afternoon, is when I cut loose my last Substack article, which was titled the following here: Talawanda Elementary School principal accused of sexual assault toward at least one minor student. Kramer Elementary School principal Jason Merz of Oxford, Ohio, was absent from school on May 1st and 2nd of 2025. First of all, I'm going to start here. A number of individuals reached out to me and provided a great deal of information regarding this. And this is a remarkably serious matter. As you're well aware, and as of course am I, because this was the entire reason that I left the business, was because of people like this, of course, and then the cover-ups that take place after the fact. The fact is that predators go where the prey exists. And because image protection is a school district's number one concern, instead of doing the right thing all of the time, probing, asking questions, getting to the bottom of issues, and then cutting loose individuals like this quickly, and even sending a message by making it public, this person is gone because of XYZ. And making sure, of course, that those statements are accurate. That if they just did that the first time, they wouldn't dig themselves further into a hole by lying about such situations on a constant basis. But this is what they do because, again, the safety and security of students is never their number one concern. It's about image protection. That's why in every single school board meeting, you'll hear almost all of these school board members, regardless of the district throughout the United States, front load all of their board meetings with nothing but self-congratulatory bullshit. It's all a ruse. It's all designed to make it look like they're doing the right thing, when they're not, for a variety of reasons. So the immediate lying that has gone on with this particular case was, again, not surprising. It's remarkably predictable because, again, this is what they do. And the most guilty, of course, are the ones who scream the loudest, and these are the individuals, of course, who have the most to hide. Now, the people who live in this town and have lived here longer than me, and certainly affiliated with the school district longer than I have, and I don't even affiliate with the school district other than the fact that I used to go here and the place sucks. It sucked back then, and it sucks now. It was an inbred place to go to school back then, and it's an inbred place to go to school now. With that said, I guarantee that more people knew about this than what they're leading on. There's no doubt about it. So let me go through this Substack briefly, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it apart a little bit at a time, because, as one might expect, there are some rather suspicious occurrences that have taken place here, not to mention the full neglect of the Oxford Police Department. But that doesn't come as a surprise, again, to anybody who's ever read my books or listened to this show, because you know full well that SROs, by and large, in schools, become school employees for not very good reasons. They're usually shitty cops, or they're just not good, or maybe they want to be around kids for all the wrong reasons. Same thing again at the police department level. They might send their children to those schools where these pedophiles exist, so they hear about an allegation, and in their own head, that upends their entire belief system. So then again, it causes the individual to engage in cognitive dissonance, not take particular claims seriously, not fill out police reports thoroughly, and then before you know it, they try to sweep this under the rug, not knowing, of course, that police officers who do such a thing are putting themselves in peril, professional peril. So again, I'm just going to go through this article here briefly and then jump in with a few more additional details, I think, which are remarkably important. Here's what it said. Quote, the following letter was sent to Talawanda school board members in Oxford, Ohio, board president Rebecca Howard, Dawn King, Matt Wyatt, Pat Mead, and Chris Otto on May 1st of 2025. This letter was written and sent by a mother parent who sends her son to Kramer Elementary School in Oxford, Ohio. Quote, "Dear members of the Talawanda School Board, I'm writing to you with a heavy heart and a sense of urgency regarding a deeply disturbing matter involving elementary principal Jason Merz and my son. It has taken immense courage to come forward, and I do so now only because another parent has shared a similar experience involving their child, giving me the strength to speak out." Now, let me interject very quickly. There are other victims, and unfortunately, these parents are afraid to come forward for, again, a variety of reasons. Not because they're lying, but they're just afraid because, again, the number of pedophile apologists that exist in this town is immense. And as you know, you turn on the light of pedophilia, and then all of a sudden, all the moths run right to the flame in an effort to, again, defend it or deflect or do whatever it is that they do. Rationalize their own involvement. There's no way that this could have happened. I've lived here forever. That's not a rational excuse. In fact, I'm gonna throw out this invitation very quickly to anybody listening to this. I'm going to tell you what the short-term and long-term consequences are for children and families if they do not come forward with viable complaints where their child has been abused in any environment. A long time ago, when I was in college, I believe even in high school, in a therapy session that a cousin of mine received, of course, years after this particular incident had occurred, it came out in this therapy session that my cousin was being molested by an older male babysitter or neighbor down the street in the neighborhood where he lived in Tennessee. Now, what happened after that was my cousin, again, starting to use drugs, using a lot of drugs, specifically hallucinogenic drugs, ecstasy, LSD, you name it. And throughout this entire time, it was during all of that when he started to have a mental breakdown and essentially gave himself drug-induced psychosis and schizophrenia. All of those drugs just started to bore holes into his brain and completely change his personality. But again, during a therapy session, after, again, having interactions with his extended family members, not me, but other individuals that we didn't even talk to anymore, he had a complete mental breakdown while on drugs. And then he was shipped off to therapy, and it was in those therapy sessions again when he openly said that he had been molested, that his parents knew. And here's the kicker, that his parents not only knew who it was and when it happened, but his own parents didn't do anything about it. And see, therein lies the problem. So the drug use and the self-abuse was coming as a result of keeping something a secret, but at the same time, it was coming as a result of even his parents knowing what had taken place and not following through the proper legal channels to get this individual arrested and ultimately put away for a very long time. So that's one of the, that's one of the long-term and short-term consequences of what happens when an individual does not reach a logical conclusion to a traumatic situation. If you think that burying it or being afraid to come out and file a police report with specifics and doing all of that, if you think that, again, burying that and avoiding that is a good decision, I assure you it is not. That in the short term and the long term, you are damaging not only yourself, but the individual who has actually been abused. Not to mention, if that individual comes to grips with what has actually happened to them later in life, they can just flat out kill themselves. But if they know that they have parents who stand up for them in all the appropriate ways, then self-harm is less likely to happen among that child. But again, this is unfortunately the business. The business is filled with not just the abusive, but the abused as well. And just like any behavior, if it goes unchecked, among the individuals engaging in said behavior, is it going to get better or is it going to get worse? Are those individuals likely to share their experiences with even their coworkers or anybody else that they know, even in, again, a serious or joking matter? To where the individuals who actually know what's been going on is a lot larger than those who do not? It's quite possible, yes. Again, I worked in the business for 9 years. The number of conversations that I heard among staff members casually talking about minors in a sexually attractive kind of way was overwhelming and disgusting. And then, of course, you have endless adults around those adults in the administrative positions who make excuses for that kind of talk and that kind of behavior. There is no excuse. It's pedophilic. It's predatory. And of course, as one might expect, that behavior is contagious among individuals who engage in those kinds of behaviors, and they draw in, like a magnet, all the other pedophiles and all the other, again, pedophilic individuals who feel like talking about minors like that, even conversations, is somehow okay. Like, wow, see that kid over there? They're going to grow up and be really attractive someday. Or, man, they're going to be a really hot high school student. Or they're going to be a really gorgeous college student or gorgeous adult. These people are everywhere in the business, and they are disgusting. Wood chipper, ladies and gentlemen, feet first. Every single time. I'm going to keep going here. This, again, was the letter that the parent wrote to every board member. They said, starting around week 12 of 2024, which again was around spring break time, before or after, my son started exhibiting different behaviors which continued until my son explained what happened early July of 2024. I immediately took him to Butler Behavioral Health for therapy. My son explained the following to me early July of 2024. Jason Merz took him into the cafeteria bathroom stall and told him, "Let me touch you." My son told him no, and tried to leave the bathroom stall. At that time, Jason Merz put his leg and foot out and blocked him into the stall and forcibly touched my son, and then made my son watch Jason Merz pull his pants down too and proceed to play with his own penis. Now, there's a detail in this that was added later and described to me later, which involved Jason Merz yelling the word "now." That according to this individual's child, Jason Merz yelled "now" when it came to him asking or yelling at the kid to pull down his pants. The letter goes on, says, these incidents have caused him significant emotional distress, and as his parent, I'm devastated that he has endured this violation, received a report that clearly states my son shows signs of sexual abuse, which is exactly, again, what was brought out in a therapy session in conversation with individuals from Butler Behavioral Health. It says, I've maintained notes documenting each occurrence, including dates, times, and specific details of the interactions, which I'm prepared to share with the board and any relevant authorities to ensure a thorough investigation. When I first became aware of this behavior, I was overwhelmed with fear and uncertainty, unsure of how to protect my child, while grappling with the weight of confronting such a serious issue. After another parent confided in me about similar concerns regarding their child, I realized that silence is no longer an option. This pattern of behavior must be addressed immediately to protect all students in our school community. Now, let me mention something about this too, because only the unknowledgeable and pedophilic apologists would actually attack the parent in a situation like this. If you've never walked a mile or even a foot in a parent's shoes before, in a situation like this, in a town like this, or in a school district like this, you don't know what your reaction would be. Everybody says that they know what their reaction would be if their child had again come to this realization. But I just told you the story of my cousin. So again, why did his parents, my aunt and uncle, not go to the authorities? They didn't go to the authorities for the same reason that a lot of people don't. They don't know what their options are. They maybe don't trust the authorities. And then maybe, and this is the sad part, which is unfortunate. Again, and I'm not blaming the parent for this. I would actually blame other individuals for this, like school board members or whomever, that the reason that you don't is because of image protection. You're interested in protecting your image, and you're willing to use others at that expense to protect your own public image. Well, we don't want anybody to know that pedophilia happens in our school district. But what they don't know is they're a school district. And that by default, just on basic math and ratios and numbers, the simple fact is that the likelihood of there being pedophiles in these environments is remarkably high. Why? Because that's where the prey is. The prey is all right there in one central location, of every age. This is what happens when you start hiring gays in this business also. It's not just for the straight, it's for gays as well, as we all are well aware. And then, of course, where do you think all of this homosexuality and perversion normalization comes from? And then it becomes school policy through things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the blurring of lines, and rainbow flags everywhere. And yes, you can go into a boys or girls bathroom regardless of what actual sex you really are. Do you see what I'm saying here? You know this because you're smart people. The problem is that the dummies and the pedophilic apologists have no idea what this is. Or, even worse, they do know what it is and they're still perpetuating it and advocating for it rather, because, again, this is what they advocate for. That advocating for these sexual perversions are quite literally their agenda. Which means, again, what does that say about them? It means, again, that they are predatory, that they are sexual deviants themselves, publicly, privately, or otherwise. Maybe they have other problems going on, bad relationships, alcoholism, drug addiction, who knows? But they're not well. And unfortunately, the business is filled with these people. Sometimes they work in this profession, and sometimes they are the actual parents who continue to send their children to these environments, even after something like this takes place. Let me extend that thought just a little bit further. As you've heard me say before, in moments like this, when a school principal has been removed, and he has now been removed for the remainder of the year on paid administrative leave, that as a result of that, parents will still send their children back to that school and back to that school district because they are so naive that they actually believe that the problem only exists with the individual who has now been asked to step aside. They haven't been fired, they haven't resigned, not yet, but they actually believe that there isn't a wider problem in the building. That if he did what he did and he's gone, well, then the problem is solved. Oh, how wrong they are. You have to be a complete moron to actually believe that that's the case. This is through and through. Throughout the entire, again, profession. I use that word loosely. It's not a profession. It goes on. It says, in an effort to ensure for my son's safety, I requested that he be transferred to another elementary school within the district. To my dismay, this request was denied, leaving my son in an environment where he feels unsafe and vulnerable. I implore the board to reconsider this decision and prioritize my son's well-being by granting the transfer immediately. I can explain that as well. The parent asked to have her child moved from one elementary school to another to get away from this person. The mother is a single mother. They didn't have another option but to continue to send them again to school while they are, of course, were working. Now, put yourself in that situation. If you're not a single mother, in that situation where you're having to work while also, again, sending your child back to that environment, which I know sounds terrible because it is, but you again can't begin to imagine it. Because if even one element of that is something that you have not experienced, then you would not know. This is the paralysis that this can cause within a person's mind and central nervous system when it comes to, again, knowing what the right thing is, but feeling like they don't have an option, feeling like they don't have another place to go. They continued and they said, I'm calling on the Talawanda School Board to take swift and decisive action. This includes conducting a thorough investigation into Principal Merz's conduct, ensuring accountability, and implementing measures to prevent such incidents in the future. No child should have to endure what my son and potentially other students have experienced. I trust that the board will treat this matter with the seriousness it demands and act in the best interests of our children. Please contact me at your earliest convenience to discuss the next steps, including how I can provide my detailed documentation and support the investigation. I am committed to advocating for my son and ensuring a safe learning environment for all students. Sincerely, the parent. Now, of course, this is going to lead to a Title IX investigation that is going to have to be conducted outside of the school district. No one inside of the school district should be conducting any investigation on any of this. This has to be done from the outside, both an investigation and a decision maker not affiliated with the district. There is more than enough ample evidence here. And again, I fully understand that a person would say, well, why isn't this principal in cuffs? Why are they not behind bars? Well, that comes later. And that's going to come later. Because again, in those therapy sessions, you're talking about individuals who are engaging in behavioral therapy with a minor, and they have a legal responsibility to, of course, become a mandated reporter, as is every school employee and school board member. Now, again, for the people who don't live here, let me fill in a couple of points here, which are, I believe, rather interesting. First of all, Jason Merz, this principal, is married to a woman, and they have apparently at least 2 other children. Now, I want you to pay attention to this timeline, because this timeline is highly suspicious. The therapy sessions for the parent's child occurred in July of 2024. Molly Merz, Jason Merz's wife, was the female principal of Bogan Elementary School here in town. There are 3 elementary schools: Kramer, Bogan, and Marshall. And you can't make up this nepotism and this conflict of interest, but the Marshall principal is the wife of the police chief. That should be against school policy, because that's a direct conflict of interest. And no, that's not like some security measure or a good thing. It's quite the opposite. Now, with her aside for just a minute, and with that aside, his wife, Molly Merz, and this is directly from the Oxford Free Press, from last July 23rd of 2024, where they're introducing the new female principal who, with all due respect, looks like a complete psycho. But anyway, with her aside, here's what it says. Molly Merz, who has served as principal for Bogan Elementary since 2021, is leaving the district this academic year to become the principal of Edgewood Intermediate School in Trenton. Molly's been a part of Talawanda for 12 years. She was first hired as an assistant principal at Talawanda High School before transitioning to Bogan 9 years later. It marked her first time working in elementary education. Quote, I like to be challenged. I like to push my envelope, Merz said. Quote, I was really interested in elementary education and what that looked like and what that meant. One of the things I've loved doing is creating relationships with students, the families, and the staff. Regardless of age, you do that everywhere you go. No, that's not really your job. Again, this is the purposeful line blurring of what people believe is their job. When you're a principal of a school building, you're supposed to enforce the law that exists on the books based on district policy. And you're a human being / adult employee manager. That's it. And I'm telling you, if anybody says anything otherwise, they're blurring the lines. And it's this blurring of the lines that causes for this kind of behavior. I find the timing of her exit to be rather interesting, being the summer of 2024, the same time when this child openly admits in a therapy session and then CPS gets involved that the child has been abused by this woman's husband, apparently. It goes on here. She said, quote, "I would always joke about, I'm putting out the bat signal. We need coverage for this. And everybody's willing to help, which is fantastic," Merz said. "People will chip in with whatever you need." Talawanda Superintendent Ed Thoreau said that their new principal, Cannon, is her last name, was the best candidate to take over for Bogan for Merz. Thoreau is sorry to see Merz go, he said, but happy for her new opportunity. "I find the timing highly suspicious." That's me talking, of course. "She's always a supporter of Talawanda. She always sought out win-win solutions to problems," Thoreau said. "Watching her work with the most challenging students at the elementary level as well as high school was outstanding and amazing," unquote. Then why'd she leave? If she was so good at her job, why did she go? See, there's this passing the trash mentality that takes place throughout the entire business. They bounce around like a pinball inside a pinball machine from one school to the next, one district to the next, one position to the next, instead of someone just cutting them loose because they're shitty. Now, the Substack goes on here. Again, I find that highly suspicious, but I wanted to make mention of this actually also. Back to her husband, Jason Merz. He's been licensed in the state of Ohio since what appears to be 1996, and he was first licensed as a physical education teacher. He maintained that licensure all throughout the remainder of his career, throughout this entire time. Again, physical education teacher, and then he became certified in career-based intervention, whatever the hell that means, integrated sciences, and then 6 semester hours of were required to renew a license in the area, in a particular area, not sure which, career-based intervention potentially. Again, re-upping his physical education license for another 5 years. And then he became licensed to be a principal in all grades, pre-K through 12, in 2006. And then again, principal again as well, and then re-upped his physical education, and then again re-upped his physical education, principal licensure. He keeps going. And then in 2019, he obtained a 5-year professional superintendent license. And then in 2024, he re-upped his 5-year professional superintendent license again. Well, I think it's safe to say that if he had any aspirations of being a superintendent, those are officially out the window. So just so everybody knows, I have already filed a formal complaint against his license with the state of Ohio with ample evidence to strip him of his license permanently. I don't give a shit what the cops do. I mean, I do care. If they're not going to do their job, I'm going to have this guy's job in the palm of my hand. It's that simple. And anybody and everybody who has worked around this individual needs to file the same complaint. It's so easy to do, it's silly. Again, you can use the Substack article, you can use whatever you want. But this is how you get rid of a person's license. You want this person away from children, you go after their license. You really want them away from children, you send them to jail. I'll continue with the Substack here. Again, it says that Principal Jason Merz was not present at school on Thursday, May 1st, 2025, nor Friday, May 2nd of 2025. In fact, it was at the end of the day on Friday when a message was put out saying that he was placed on paid administrative leave by the district, and apparently employees of the actual school building were told that he is out for the remainder of the year, which is just another month. It says the district again didn't make an announcement on their website at the time. In fact, initially they told the staff members of that building that he was just ill, that he was out sick. So they lied. They lied out of the gate immediately. Well, he's out sick. That's why he's not here. That's not why he wasn't there. He wasn't physically sick. I mean, he is sick clearly, but that's not why he was gone. And so what? People expect the district to start telling the truth all of a sudden? It goes on, it says, this parent and an advocate of theirs took the complaint to the Oxford Police Department on Wednesday night, April 30th. One of the Oxford police officers allegedly told the parent that they were not going to file this report because the parent did not like that police officer. This is where cops are about as dirty gets. It says the second police officer apparently also told the parent mother that she obviously felt comfortable sending her child to that school. Again, that's a cop-out. Why would you keep sending your kid if they were getting abused and what you're saying is true? Again, it's a complete cop-out. It's a total rationalization. It says the parent reiterated that she told the district that she wanted her son to be switched from Kramer Elementary to Marshall Elementary because of a safety concern, and that it was a closer location to her employment. I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. But it goes on and it says the parent advocate also told the Oxford Police Department during the report that they had better call the school district and file the report because they were going to be contacting the district immediately themselves the next morning. One of the police officers was supposed to contact the parent and tell them that they filed the report, including the report number, but that did not happen as of the morning of May 2nd. Ultimately, the report was obtained later in the afternoon by the parent herself on May 2nd in the afternoon again of 2025. Again, the nonchalant way in which the police report was filled out is disgusting because this was filled out again by the police officers themselves. They don't appear to make mention of the actual incident in any detail, let alone, of course, the individual or where this actually occurred. They don't list Jason Merz's name or the school building. And this was put together by a Matthew Bavelt, if I'm saying that right. Blavelt, who flippin' cares. Joshua Jenkins also was the approving officer. So I'm not sure they can be trusted. But anyway, it goes on. It says it was after spring break of 2024 when the mother observed behavior in her son that was out of character. Before or around July of 2024, this parent sought behavioral therapy for her son from Butler Behavioral Health, a licensed Ohio Department of Mental Health and Ohio Department of Alcohol and Drug Addiction Service and CARF accredited center. Apparently in these sessions, the parent's son told the therapist and the mother what had occurred at the hands of Principal Jason Merz within Kramer Elementary. And in one of these reports, which I lay out here, which was on September 27th, it says, quote, child reported that in or around spring of 2024, he was touched in the genital area by his principal in the school bathroom. Provider consulted with supervisor, and it was determined that a CPS report should be made. CPS report was made on the 19th of September of 2024, and family was notified that report would be made. Butler Behavioral Health, again, are mandated reporters. This would mean that the therapist of the child would be mandated to contact CPS or the police, if not the district itself, to notify them of the complaint and report from the child. Yet it's unknown as to whether a report was ultimately filed from the therapist to police, CPS, or the district. It says later that summer in 2024, when this parent attempted to have her son removed from Kramer Elementary School, and this would have been, again, before August, and placed in another elementary school, Marshall Elementary School, in the district after these therapy sessions, Superintendent Ed Thoreau sent a denial letter in the mail to this parent denying the request. Superintendent Ed Thoreau apparently denied writing this letter, yet here is the letter below, where he says, on Talawanda letterhead, August 14th, 2024, to the parent guardian, and again it was in regards to status of intra-district transfer request for the 24-25 school year, quote, We have received your intra-district transfer application for Marshall Elementary School from the 24-25 school year. I'm sorry to inform you that your application has been denied as class sizes have been established and the deadline for application has passed. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact our office at the phone number. Sincerely, Dr. Edward Thoreau, Superintendent of Schools. First of all, she told Jason Merz that she knew what he had done to her child. Because in December of 2024, the mother met with Principal Jason Merz, as I wrote here, in regards to her son's behavior in school at the request of Principal Jason Merz himself. In this closed-door meeting, the principal, Jason Merz, in Jason Merz's office with no witnesses and no recording devices, the parent also indicated that to the principal that she knew what he had done to her child. She reported that this is exactly when he became incredibly nervous and started to panic. Well, of course, he got caught. And then it was after that that a menacing complaint was made by either, again, Jason Merz or the superintendent to the Oxford Police Department after that meeting. And then the Oxford police came to the home of the parent and told her to sign a statement to this complaint or be arrested. She was almost arrested and threatened with arrest, but she ended up signing the statement indicating that she had done nothing wrong. And then again, it was shortly after that, on December 4th, when she was sent a no trespassing and communication notification from Ed Thoreau himself. Do you think the superintendent's involved in this cover-up? Kind of seems like it. Because again, if a parent in that situation, I'll start there. If the parent in this situation contacted the superintendent and said, I want a change of location, or sent the complaint or the change of location request to even the principal himself, and it was denied, and indicated that there was a safety concern and that they wanted to move their child closer to, again, Marshall Elementary School because it was closer to their employment, then why would that be denied? Ladies and gentlemen, you can move children around in school buildings all of the time for a variety of reasons. It happens daily. It's a non-issue. So all of this, we have, the schedules have been set and we have too many students in classes as is and blah, blah, blah. No, it's completely ridiculous. There's always another desk. You can always make another arrangement. It's not difficult. And if there was a safety concern, and this is the kicker, why didn't the superintendent ask what the safety concern was? Isn't that his job? Did the superintendent ask Principal Jason Merz what the safety concern was? Did Jason Merz make up a story and lie to the superintendent, or did he tell the superintendent the truth? Who's to say? But I know we're going to get to the bottom of it, and if I was Ed Thoreau, I'd be scared shitless right now. Because I'm coming after your license too, sweetheart. So the no trespassing and communication notification was again put together apparently on December 4th of 2024, sent to this parent. It again says the following here. This letter is sent to you on behalf of the Talawanda Schools Board of Education, sections blah, blah, blah of the Ohio Revised Code. Grant control of the schools and the Board of Education and authorize the board and administration to regulate all persons who enter upon school grounds. As a result of your inappropriate, aggressive, and unsafe conduct with Principal Merz on December 4th of 2024, while on school property beginning immediately, you are prohibited from entering upon all Talawanda school properties or attending any school-sponsored event or activity at any location without prior written permission of the superintendent, Dr. Edward Thoreau, or building principal, Mr. Jason Merz. Again, if you were the superintendent, wouldn't you ask the principal what was discussed in your office that caused this parent to be angry at you? Wouldn't you ask that question? And wouldn't you ask the parent what was discussed in this meeting? that caused you to become angry with Principal Merz? Why did the superintendent not ask that question? There will be an exception. It says when you need to drop off or pick up your child, you will need to remain in your vehicle when dropping off or picking up your child. You may attend parent conferences or school functions that include your child, but first must notify the superintendent or principal to gain permission. You are also not allowed to attend any other functions within the Talawanda School District and to be on any Talawanda school property without permission. Should you fail to abide by this directive, the school district will have you forcibly removed from the property and will pursue criminal trespass charges under sections blah, blah, blah of Ohio Revised Code. It says, please be further advised that other than Principal Jason Merz or Superintendent Edward Thoreau, you shall not communicate directly with any other school district administrator, employee, or school board member or board member, whether in person or by telephone or other electronic communication, including text message and email message, without prior approval from Principal Merz or Superintendent Thoreau. Please email or call Principal Merz if your child is sick or if you need to meet or talk to a staff member. If you have any questions regarding this matter, please direct them to my attention. Sincerely, Dr. Ed Thoreau, Talawanda School District Superintendent. So the superintendent is trying to keep the parent from even talking to their own child's school teacher and counselor and anybody else. Why? If the dust-up was just with Principal Merz, why are they trying to limit conversations or communication, rather, with anybody else within the district? What do you have to hide? It says, again, the parent was, of course, charged with menacing. Seems a bit odd. But anyway, they're set to go to court in June. And again, a bunch of people, including employers and individuals that they know, all wrote letters of support. And what's interesting is that the prosecuting attorney and her defense attorney know exactly about the allegations of child abuse against her son at the hands of the principal. In fact, CPS, of course, Butler County CPS got involved and said the following here, and this would have been on, April 25th, this year of 2025. Dear parent, thank you for allowing me to talk with you about your family. After my visits with you, together we identified that your family has many strengths, including good communication skills and highly motivated. As we discussed, your case with our agency will be closed at this time. If you have any further questions, or if you can reach out, if we can be of any help to your family at a future time, please call our office at the following number. And it was signed by 2 individuals. Again, I'm in possession of other letters of support regarding the parent as well. It says I wrote this then later in the Substack toward the end here. It says the first initial letter above, written by this mother parent and sent to the Talawanda School Board the night of May 1st of 2025, has also been sent to a Title IX lawyer and investigator. Now, of course, a formal Title IX investigation is going to take place. And they need to look into the actions and emails of Superintendent Ed Thoreau and what he knew and when he knew it. Again, there are more victims, and as I encourage people at the end of the article, they need to come forward now. The first move you make is you file a police report, and you are descriptive in your written report, step-by-step chronological order of everything that occurred. Again, by the end of that day, last Friday, here was the announcement that was put out by Talawanda. It's put out by their communications director, Holly Hansel, who's a complete nitwit, and they couldn't help themselves but, of course, write in the last sentence, which they always do. Again, news release, and this was on May 2nd of 2025. Talawanda School District Administrator placed on leave. Talawanda School District received a complaint of inappropriate conduct by an administrator. The district takes all complaints seriously and has taken steps to place the administrator on leave pending further investigation. Local law enforcement is involved. Please note that the district cannot discuss pending personnel matters. It says we want to assure all members of our community that we continually strive to keep all of our students and staff safe. Thank you. No, you don't. No, you haven't. No, you don't. And no, you won't. Period. They don't take all complaints seriously. The first thing they do is avoid. The next thing they do, of course, is fail to ask questions. The next thing they do, of course, if they get caught, is they immediately lie and cover it up. This is standard procedure in endless school districts all over the place. Again, Jason Merz has been placed on paid administrative leave and he's been replaced by someone else, a female. Now, here's the actual article that came out in the Oxford Free Press that same day after I dropped that article. And of course, it made the rounds on all the Facebook pages here in town, and it did what it did. This was written by Sean Scott, another local nitwit. It says, Talawanda administrator on leave after complaint of inappropriate conduct. Now listen to what he writes here. A Talawanda administrator has been placed on leave following an allegation of misconduct. The district did not identify the administrator in a press release regarding the incident. Do you know who works for the Oxford Free Press and is on their board of directors? A woman by the name of Stephanie Arney, who also works for the school district. That's called a conflict of interest. She should resign her position on the board of directors effective immediately. She's involved. Perhaps not directly with this, but it doesn't matter. She's, again, involved. She feeds information to Sean Scott. He publishes it as fact no matter what. No matter the case. Again, I've brought up some of his stupid articles in the past before, but that's a direct conflict of interest. That's the inbred mentality and nepotistic mentality that exists, again, between local newspapers, school districts, local police, etc., etc. Here's what he said. Again, press release May 2nd. The paid leave followed the district receiving a complaint of inappropriate conduct by an administrator, according to the press release, and local law enforcement is involved. Quote, the district takes all complaints seriously and has taken steps to blah, blah, blah. Holly Hansel, Talawanda's director of communication, did not confirm the identity of the administrator or the nature of the alleged inappropriate conduct on the record. Well, they read my Substack article, so you're welcome. Now, be a journalist. If you want to pretend to be one for the rest of your time, that's fine, because you're pretending right now, Sean Scott. You're not actually a journalist. You would have actually made mention of the administrator's name or referenced my article. But of course, you don't want to do that either, because there's too much fact there and far too many questions regarding what Talawanda has done. No charges have been filed against Talawanda administrators in Butler County courts this week, according to the court docket. And then I like how he recycles the trash in his last paragraph. He says at least 3 district employees have been placed on administrative leave so far this school year for varying lengths of time. A Bogan Elementary staff member was placed on leave and later resigned when facing a child endangerment charge in court last December. A middle school teacher was placed on leave in November following an incident in which 2 students were issued citations for marijuana possession. She kept her job, by the way, and is still there until the end of the school year. And then, of course, Danielle Mann, very famously the lunatic who lost her mind on TikTok. She's exhausting. And for posting a political video on social media filmed from her classroom. And she's still employed too. See a pattern? There was also this post that was made by someone who apparently was a student of Jason Merz when he was a physical education teacher, I believe, in Hamilton. And they said the following here. They said, oh my God, I'm quoting them. They said, oh my God, I'm like 90% sure that the principal accused was the gym teacher at my junior high. All the girls were super creeped out by him. Merz, M-E-R-Z, sorry, audio correct. Quote, He wasn't my direct gym teacher, I don't think, but the other girls would say that he was always staring at them and would noticeably have a boner at times, unquote. A pattern. Ladies and gentlemen, it's called a pattern. Now again, what I've done regarding this and what I'll continue to do is continue to make open records requests. I'm going to read those emails on this show. And again, the walls are closing in. There isn't anything that they can do to stop this. They're involved now. The entire district is involved. They need to ask for the immediate resignation of this school principal. Bringing him back would not just be a mistake. It would be larger than that. It would be an indictment of their own behavior and their own cover-up. But again, can't bring him back if he doesn't have a license. CPS is involved. Police report's been filled out. Prosecutors at the Butler County Prosecutor's Office know. And that Substack article has been viewed 16,158 times as of me recording this. So, good luck escaping it. Again, if a person is accused of such a thing, the first words out of their mouth should be, "I've never done that." Has that happened? Did he deny it in the office when the parent brought it up to his attention? That I know what you've done to my son. Did he deny it? Did anyone from the district contact the parent and inquire as to what the safety issue was as to why the parent wanted her child out of Kramer Elementary School? Did they do that? If not, why not? Doesn't it seem like that's the first question you ask? A safety concern? What safety concern? Tell me more. Was the specified safety concern actually shared in detail, specifically with the superintendent? We know that Merz knew, because again, it was brought to the attention of Merz by the mother herself. So who knew what, and who covered up what? If Jason Merz's wife was again, according to the superintendent, such an effective school principal, why leave? Why leave in the summer of 2024? After apparently CPS became aware, or the therapist became aware that this child had been touched, albeit in a separate building, the building that her husband was involved in. But is there some other relationship thing taking place there as to why this individual decided to split? I have no idea. I'm just asking. But this is a business that hates questions. They don't ask. Don't ask, don't tell. They say time and time again that their policy is see something, say something. Well, if that's true, then why would a person immediately, like a superintendent, run to a school board and say, well, I didn't know anything about this, so I don't even know what any of this is about? And then you get proven to be a liar in the blink of an eye. The cover-up always is worse, as opposed to just doing the right thing right out of the gate. So again, two more things regarding this. There will be more that will occur with this that is going forward. Again, like I said, I've already filed formal complaints against his license at the state. The state has no choice but to suspend his license and open an investigation. This is too serious. And in that same wavelength, there should be criminal charges that come down as a result of this for all involved parties. Anybody who knew about this and covered it up, anybody who didn't ask the appropriate questions, and again, not asking the appropriate questions, Edward Thoreau, Superintendent of Talawanda Schools, is a violation of your code of conduct and your contractual obligation. You're supposed to ask questions. Which means if you say you didn't know, I hate to break it to you, that's an indictment of yourself. It's also worth noting this, just for the pedophilic apologists out there. This woman's address was doxed. Individuals, again, do what they do because they're pedophile apologists. they immediately take to social media and start bashing the individual and looking for anything to basically make fun of them for. Actually, the support for this parent and her child and children is far more than any of the pedophile apologists. The pedophile apologists have just exposed themselves as to exactly who they are, by name. And we know who they are by name. Even those who allegedly hide behind anonymous accounts. We know who you are. Again, you can tell who somebody is by their writing style. It's not difficult. They misspell the same words. They use the same sentence structure. It's easy to figure out who these people are. And endless individuals now know who these people are. But again, I have filed a great deal of open records requests. I'm going to get those back in due time, and when I do, I'm going to read them on the show. I'm going to publish them on my Substack. This is how this gets done. Prosecutors are going to get a hold of this. I'm going to move this information to all relevant parties, including the state of Ohio. But it's also worth noting this, just in case, again, like I said earlier, the pedophile apologists are out there making excuses instead of actually focusing on those who are actually to blame in this entire situation. If anybody thinks that I made any money on publishing that article, I assure you, I didn't make one red cent. Not one. All of my subscribers outside of maybe like 3 or 4 are free subscribers because all of my content is free. No one has to pay me anything. And again, by and large, they don't. But based on this article alone, I didn't pick up any paid subscribers. I didn't receive a single cent. I'm not interested in money. That's for the devil. My employer is Jesus Christ. And if you think that he's going to let me down, or I'm going to let him down, you have another thing coming. So for the pedophile apologists out there, you've already lost. You just don't know it yet because you're stupid. And that's fine. If you want to keep running right into the sun every single time it gets hot, I'm all for it. Because you're batting for the wrong team. And every single time that a school board meeting takes place and a school employee comes up to the microphone to talk about what great things are going on in Talawanda or what great things are happening within their school buildings, you could not look more out of touch. You could not look more mentally ill if you wanted to. You might as well wear a shirt and a sign on your back that says, "I'm not well. I'm rationalizing my participation in this school district." Guilt by association is a very real thing, as you've heard me bring up here on the show endless times. How often are individuals going to allow people like this to work in these environments? I can't wait for the board members. Of course, Dawn King won't do it because she's ethical. But the rest of them, I can't wait for them to actually defend Edward Thoreau in this. They're going to do it. They're going to defend him in the next board meeting. We support him and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Is that right? Hey, if you want to tune your violins on the Titanic while he's behind the wheel, I'm 100% fine with it. Because you're going to go down with the ship too. So buckle up, because it's about to get real fun, and we're just getting started. With that said, let me move on to this. Separate subject, still education. Well, education, I use that loosely. This is from the AmericanLiberty.News. This was on May 2nd, titled "Accuracy in Media Video Exposes University of South Florida Administrator Bragging About Ignoring State DEI Policy." An accuracy in media uncover investigation reveals an official at the University of South University, St. Petersburg, advising a prospective student parent that diversity, equity, and inclusion teachings are still just fine there. This is despite DEI being illegal in taxpayer-financed higher education in Florida. In the video, a Heather Kilsanen, I'm saying that right, director of student contact and ethical development at the university, is seen telling our undercover reporter how they work around the law. I remember a guy with a podcast bringing that very thing up, I think on this show, quite some time ago. Sorry for tooting my own horn there. It says the law in Florida is that taxpayer funding cannot be used for DEI. That's just what the law is. Kilsannon explains how they still run the same programs, they just claim that they're not funded by the taxpayer dollar. They are, she says, paid for by student government. This is funded by student activity fees, which is different from taxpayer dollars. It says when Accuracy in Media president Adam Gillette confronted her over the statement she made on video, she denied having actually said it. Quote, they said you got around it by simply moving all the programs into a situation where they were funded by student activity fees, so they're not directly funded by the taxpayer. So is that true? Said Gillette. Quote, I didn't say that, reply Kilsannon. And yet she is, as you can see on tape, saying just that. Gillette then pointed out that 74.3% of students attend the university on Bright Futures scholarships, which is taxpayer funding. Bright Futures scholarships covers student activity fees. So it's money laundering. That's typical. Kilsannon, it says, then insists that it will be necessary to speak to the communications department, which claims that this is not the college's settled policy. It says, we have seen this again and again across the education system. CRT is renamed SEL, but continues. Laws on boys and girls sports are ignored and worked around, quote unquote. The law changes, but practices don't. Kilsannon said, quote, our goal is that it won't go away. It just may adjust for logistical purposes and politics, unquote. The voters and legislature of Florida have decided differently. Your tax dollars should not be paying for illegal, radical ideas in higher education, unquote. Yep. But they dig in like ticks, and they do their best to, again, make it hide, make it stick, and do whatever it is that they have to do to keep it going. Now, given the recent happenings again here, certainly over the last number of months in the local school district where I live, got a piece of audio here from ABC Nightly News. This was sent to me by Sandy Adams, if I'm not mistaken, and this has to do with one of their male football coaches, the old Wolverines. Give this a listen as to what exactly he's been accused of and what he's gone to court for. See, there's a connection here between misuse in technology and sexual perversion. So give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
To the former NFL and college coach accused of hacking thousands of students, athletes, and others. Tonight, prosecutors revealing how he allegedly got photos and videos of students and athletes undressed from emails and cloud storage accounts. Here's Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, the stunning volume of explicit images investigators say they've seized from former University of Michigan coach Matt Weiss.
Do you have anything to say?
The Justice Department emailing thousands of victims, telling them Weiss gained unauthorized access to their email, social media, and cloud storage accounts and stole thousands of candid, intimate photographs and videos.
It feels that much more devastating to find out that you weren't protected, that again, you're treated like nothing more than an object.
Prosecutors say some of those hacked images show victims naked. Some show victims engaged in explicit sexual acts. Investigators say they discovered the images on Weiss's electronic devices and storage accounts after he was accused of hacking more than 3,300 people, mainly female college athletes, keeping notes commenting on their bodies and their sexual preferences. The indictment says Weiss hacked into a third-party vendor that maintains student databases for more than 100 colleges and universities across the country, and even cracked the encryption protecting the passwords simply by doing research online. Just a chilling development, David. Prosecutors saying that Weiss researched online how to access these accounts, then mined personal information like mothers' maiden names, pet names, places of birth. Weiss has pleaded not guilty to all charges. David?
That is really troubling, Aaron. Thank you.
Ah, yes, Weiss and Merz. Interesting. Every single time, ladies and gentlemen. Just disgusting. These people are everywhere. They're everywhere. I'm going to end with this one. This is from Alex Berenson, Unreported Truths on Substack, a nice little poll having to do with, of course, the abuses that took place with all of the COVID lie, specifically among school-aged children, and what that's led them to actually believe now, and how this has formed them and shaped them and actually hardened them, and not in a way that government wanted. This was on April 25th, titled, Did COVID Lockdowns and School Closures Swing Young People Sharply Right? 2 new polls offer powerful evidence. The answer is yes. Excellent. It says, bright college years with pleasure rife, the shortest, gladdest years of life. The words belong to Bright College Years, written by Yale University senior in 1881, sung proudly, if drunkenly, by Yale students ever since. Not everyone goes to college, of course, but, as David Zweig said in our interview on his smart new book on the disaster of COVID school closures, quote, childhood is achingly brief, and they stole time from these kids, and they stole experiences. They, the Donald Trump hating Democrat blob that includes the public health establishment, teachers' unions, academia, and the media, sure did. And 2 new polls strongly suggest people who were under 25 in 2020 have not forgotten or forgiven. The first poll has gotten some attention. The second, which provides even more powerful evidence of the shift, has not. It should. Last week, Yale releases the results of a national survey that compares the views of about 2,000 people aged 18 through 29 with the same number of older adults. But the finding that received the most attention actually compared people with the younger group. The Yale survey discovered that the youngest survey respondents, those 21 and under, were much more conservative than those just slightly older, aged 22 to 29. As the pollsters wrote, quote, asked whether they would vote for the Democrat or Republican candidate in the 2026 congressional elections in the district, voters aged 22 to 29 favored the Democratic candidate by a margin of 6.4 points, but voters aged 18 to 21 favored the Republican by a margin of 11.7 points. In other words, 18 to 21-year-old voters leaned 18 percentage points to the right of those only slightly older. And for the same time in generations, the youngest voters said they favored Republicans overall, at least in this survey. Young people so reliably lean left that a political cliche declares, quote, if you're 18 and a conservative, you have no heart. If you're 65 and liberal, you have no brain. Not this time, though. The Yale poll provoked articles with headlines like Younger Voters Now Tilting Conservative, and from Bloomberg News, quote, Will Gen Z's pivot to the Republican Party last? Unquote. But the Bloomberg article also noted that, quote, some Democrats are unconvinced the situation is as dire as indicated by the Yale Youth Poll. The Yale survey veteran Democratic pollster Margie Omero, I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name or not, told me in an email exchange, quote, seems like an outlier. Let's see how the breakout is in the next poll. Amero pointed to youth polls fielded by the Harvard Institute of Politics, which has a much larger track record than the Yale poll. They said, sigh, Harvard always has to stick its nose in somehow. These polls have consistently shown double-digit leads for Democrats among voters aged 18 to 29, Omero said. She's right. In 2019, the Harvard poll showed Democrats with a 39 to 23% lead in party identification among those voters. In 2023, Democrats remained well ahead at 35 to 24. Including voters who leaned Democratic or Republican, Democrats had an even bigger lead, 47% to 30%, 17 percentage points. But the newest Harvard poll came out just Wednesday. It shows that voters aged 18 to 29 are now exactly split between Democrats and Republicans. The number of young voters who called themselves Democrats plunged by 11% to 24%, while Republicans remained at 24%. Including leaning voters, the results were even more striking. Democrats had 36% of young voters, again down 11%, while Republicans rose from 30% to 36%. In other words, the Harvard poll confirms the Yale results. The historic Democratic edge among young voters is gone. But there's one more data point, and it's arguably even more stunning. Like the Yale poll, the Harvard poll stratifies by age. Harvard breaks respondents into two groups, 18 to 24 and 25 to 29. Harvard, like Yale, found that the youngest respondents were more conservative than older ones, though it found a less striking difference. The 18 to 24 group identified Republican in a 26 to 24 split. The 25 to 29 group was exactly 23 to 23. That's not the stunning part. The stunning part is that in 2019, Harvard offered the same age breakdown. And back then, about twice as many 18 to 24-year-olds said they were Democrats as Republicans. 41% of respondents said they were Democrats compared to 21% of Republicans. Democrats had a 20% point lead among the young. Flash forward 6 years, through COVID and lockdowns and insane mask and distancing rules at colleges that ruined both the 20 and 21 academic years at most schools, and mRNA vaccine mandates for college students and for many young people who weren't college students too. Those 18 to 24-year-olds are now 24 to 30 years old, and they aren't overwhelmingly Democratic anymore. They don't even lean Democratic. They have felt the well-meaning boot of the public health authoritarians on their neck, and they are suspicious of government. They don't seem to care about climate change nearly as much as they once did either. The kids can't get those years back, but they can punish the Democratic blob that took them, and they are, unquote. People are learning. They're learning about the lying. They're learning about the deception. They know it came from government. They know it came from these institutions acting blindly, following orders. It's creating non-compliant Americans, which is a very good thing. Compliance is the problem. Standing in line like an ant marching on the meat grinder, all looking and behaving the same, is going to lead to the exact same deadly result. But people are waking up from this. It's cost a great deal of people their lives, a great deal of time, their health, you name it. But more and more people are waking up, and this is an excellent thing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening as always. I'll, of course, keep you updated on numerous things as the show continues here. And I believe that I am slated to be on the Dangerous Info podcast, if I'm not mistaken, on Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will provide a link in the description below. With that said, thank you for listening as always, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.